Hello there! After the success of the 45-minute free flexibility course that I made on my YouTube channel, I figured it was time to share a complete split training guide. Initially, I had planned to make this program something that you had to purchase, so instead of just making it free online, I wanted to sell it, but I figured it was nicer just to give it away for free, or actually simply to put it online for free on YouTube. Now, there is a printable sheet that you can get. You can also get this one for free, or you can choose to donate some money, and basically that means that you will buy this program rather than just give it a like on social media and then get a free download. Now, without further ado, let's get into the program. What you can see on the screen right now is basically a level guide which will help you to choose where to start from. So let's say that you are a complete beginner and have never done any flexibility training or are naturally inflexible, then simply start with level 1. And it goes on until level 12 when you are more advanced and perhaps can already do splits, and then it is going to be training until it is more comfortable for you. Now, you can choose where to start, but I definitely recommend you to just watch the entire video if you want to get some more tips about flexibility training, because throughout each and every exercise it will explain some things about basic flexibility training as well as give you some practical tips. You can also simply click on one of these levels and then you can see all the exercises of that particular exercise. And the same goes for the training guide. If you purchase a training guide or if you get the training guide for free, then you can click on one of these levels and it instantly will transport you to the right exercises, so you won't have to watch this entire video each and every time you have to see how an exercise is performed. I'm not going through every basic principle about flexibility training. However, one thing that I do find very important is warm-ups. So what I always do, or actually what I most of the times do and also recommend to people, is to start off with some basic flexibility or some basic warm-up exercises such as jogging on the place, so like that, or go outside for a run, grab a rope and do some rope skipping exercises, or do some X jumps like that. So that will help the blood get flowing, and it will also warm up your muscles and your joints, which allow you to do some better flexibility training and reach a greater range of motion. After that, it is time to do some squats and walking lunges, both because it will help you to warm up your body some more, but also because it is a form of dynamic stretching, as well as the fact that it will build your muscles, or at least it will make them stronger, not smaller, stronger, which is very important because with great flexibility comes great instability, meaning that if you're only training your flexibility, you will become unstable and you will get very easily injured because your muscles and your joints are simply unstable. After that part of the warm-up, there comes the more specific dynamic stretching, which I always do is simply doing some high knees, meaning that you're going to run and your knees are going to go up as high as you can, and also butt kicks, where your legs are going backwards basically. I don't know any other name for that than butt kicks. So after that you do some inward and outward hip rotations, or actually your knees will rotate, not necessarily your hips, and then some leg swings. Do them in different directions, so forward as well as sideways and backwards as well. That is the warm-up, and now you should be ready, or at least warmed up properly, to do some good flexibility training. The very first exercise is the standing quadriceps. I keep this with me so I know what exercises to do. Now, this is a simple exercise, so you probably already know it. Basically what you do is you will bend your leg and grab your ankle, not your toes as a lot of people do. The reason why you shouldn't grab your toes but rather your ankle is because this will lengthen your muscles more than it is when you're grabbing it like this, and that means that your range of motion is already way bigger and therefore the stretch won't work. Now, this is an exercise that will stretch your quadriceps, which is front of your upper thigh or your upper leg. And what I also do is point my toe towards the floor. And when you do this, you will feel that if you don't do that, so if you grab your toes, then there won't be a lot of tension on your quadriceps, unless you're very inflexible, which of course is not too bad, but at least this will be better for training. So if you are indeed very inflexible, then you could grab your toes. Next up on the list is the hip lunge. Basically what this is it is lunging, so doing a lunge position, and then you will lean forward. So the back leg is bent and the front leg is bent as well, but you are going on one knee and then lean forward. Keep your body straight, because if you're leaning forward too much, then there will be a lot of tension on your hips. But if you're leaning backwards, then you can really feel the tension in your hips. And the key with flexibility training is that the tension should fade away. That is when the flexibility will increase. So let's say that you have found a level of flexibility or a level of tension, then wait until that level goes back, so until it feels comfortable again, and then you can stretch a little bit deeper, which is called progressive overstretching, or at least that's what I call it. Next up on the list is the seated hamstring reach. Here we go. So this is probably also an exercise that you are quite familiar with. It is basically bending one leg, because this is a one-legged reach, hamstring reach. Then keep this leg as straight as possible, so lock out your knees if you want, or if possible. And then what you do is reach towards your foot. So this probably is easier than if you are doing it with both legs, because then most people can't even touch their toes. However, if you do it with one leg, you can lean forward a little bit easier, as well as the tension will only be on one side, and a lot of people have inflexible hamstrings, but there is a difference between those hamstrings. So you can pull towards yourself, you can pull your toes towards yourself, but it's not really necessary if you can't reach your toes. Simply go forward as far as you can until you feel the tension, then let that tension fade away and move forward a little bit more. The inner thigh stretch is pretty basic and simple. Stand with your feet about 2 times shoulder width apart, and then simply lean towards one side, and then you will feel tension in your inner thigh. It is important that you keep your feet forward, so your toes should point the same way, same direction as your face is, and your face should point forward. And alternate. Now, the amount of seconds that you should do each exercise, or the amount of reps, which is how I termed it in the workout program, is basically around 20 seconds, because that's what it takes to get the tension, or to let the tension fade away. Glute stretch is one of my favorite, still is one of my favorite glute exercises. What you do is you will bend one leg and put it over the other at around the level of your knee of the other leg. Then you will twist towards the leg that is up into the bent position, and simply you will push with your elbow against that knee, so you'll feel the tension in your glutes. You can turn more, and then you will feel more tension as well. So make sure that you alternate between those legs as well as you would do with all the other exercises. And that's about it. Now, the standing calf stretch I will demonstrate in a different video, but here it is filmed outside. What you do is basically grab something in front of you, or you could also just do it freestanding, and then put one leg in the back and keep your entire foot on the floor, flat on the floor. Then lean forward with the back leg stretched out, and you should feel some tension in the calves. So that is a great calf stretch, and a lot of people don't stretch their calves because they think that it is not necessary to do a front split, for example. However, stretching your calves as well as your shins can really help improve your front split progression. So a lot of people don't realize this, but your hamstrings and calves are actually kind of connected. So if one is tensed up, then the other one can't get the full range of motion either. The lying quadricep stretch, which is basically similar to the standing one. However, this time you will lay down on your stomach and then bend one leg, grab with the ankle again, and point your toes towards the floor, or at least make the movement, the motion towards the floor. and then if you pull harder, then you will feel more tension. And also if you want to reduce the tension, then you could play with your toes, or I mean, you can point them more towards the ceiling to relieve the tension, or you could bend your foot and go down further for more tension. Alright, the next exercise is the beginner yoga sit, which is one of the exercises that I always did in the beginning when I actually learned the side split, which is the following. You will place the soles of your feet together, and then you will grab them with your hand and simply push towards your leg, push them down, and you can also lean forward yourself a little bit more to increase the tension. So from the side it will look like this, and this is one of the main exercises that I did back in the days when I learned the side split, which is about 8 years ago. Then the deep leaning inner thigh stretch. So if you have watched the entire video so far, you already know the standing variation on this one. However, you can also do this when you're lower towards the floor, and this is when you are getting a little bit more advanced, and it more simulates doing a side split. So you will squat down on one knee and the other leg will be stretched out completely. Your toes are pointing forward, so in the same direction as your face, and then you can lean towards this leg to feel some more tension in your inner thigh. If you're not that advanced yet, then you can just stay upright and you probably already feel the tension. Then the double hamstring reach. I already demonstrated the single variation. However, you can also do this one where both of your legs are stretched out and you simply try to reach forward as far as you can. You can try to touch your toes. However, for example, I personally have pretty long arms, whereas my hamstrings and more specifically my lower back are very inflexible. So therefore it seems as if I have very flexible hamstrings, but they really aren't. So grabbing your toes is not really the goal that you are aiming at, rather you're trying to get some tension, and the tension should fade away, making you more flexible. Lying glute stretch. I had to look up what it was again, because I forgot. Basically what you do is you will lay it down on your back, and one leg will be raised, and you simply pull your knee towards your chest. And you can, if you notice, your glutes will be stretched when you pull it to the other side. So my left arm is now pulling a little bit, so I can actually feel the tension in my glutes, whereas if I only pull at my knee, then it will be more of a hip flexibility exercise, which is not what you're going to aim for. Then the superficial calf stretch, which is actually the standing calf stretch, which I already demonstrated and which you can see right here again. The seated quadricep stretch is different from the standing and the lying one. So instead of just stretching one leg at a time, you're going to stretch both of them at the same time, and you will sit on your knees like so. Simply lean backwards and you should already feel the tension. If you're less flexible, but if you're more flexible, you can lean backwards even more so. And what you should do to get the optimal stretch, so if you're getting more advanced, is pushing your hips forward. That is very important for most quadriceps exercises, including the standing one, but especially for this one, because otherwise you can simply lay on your back without feeling any tension. Now, as you look at my feet, the toes are digging into the floor. You could choose to also keep straight feet like I'm doing right now. However, then there is very little tension on your quadriceps. So in that case, you should indeed really bring your hips forward to get some good stretch. Standing hip stretch is where you put your back leg on an object like so, and then simply keep your body straight. Your face and your forward foot are in the same direction, and you will bring your hip forward or your pelvis forward, and you can personally lean backwards just a little bit. You really will feel the tension in your hips. So with that, I can also demonstrate the standing calf stretch, So this is for the superficial muscles, which are the outside, which is the gastrocnemius, and you simply lean forward while one leg is at the back with your feet flat on the floor. then simply lean forward, and then you will feel the tension in your calves. To do the more deep laying calf muscles, so the musculus soleus, you do a step backward with your forward foot and then simply bend down with your back foot until you feel some tension in the musculus soleus. The standing hamstring stretch. Stand in front of an object, which in this case is a working bench, and depending on your level of flexibility you will have a lower or a higher bench or whatever you want to use, for example a chair. Stand with your feet next to each other, both pointing towards the floor or towards the object in a straight line, and then simply put one of your legs on top of the object. And as with any other flexibility hamstring exercise, you can lean towards the leg that you are stretching for a greater stretch, and you can also grab your toes or point your toes towards you rather than pointing them forward. And if you want to feel this, then simply experiment, because you really will feel a huge difference between pointing your toes towards you or pointing them away from you. Then finally, an exercise for the glutes. The glute exercise in this level, so level 3, is where you are going to lay down on the floor, and then one leg or one foot is going to be placed on the knee of the other leg with your knees pointing outwards. You probably can't do it the other way around, so that's pointless to say. Anyways, what you do then is grab this leg in behind the knee and simply pull it towards you, and then you should feel the tension in your glutes. You can't lay down with your head on the floor again, so you won't put any tension on your neck muscles or your back. Level 4 starts with the seated quadricep stretch, which I already demonstrated in the previous level, and this time you simply try to stretch further, or you push your hips forward more than you did in the previous level. So you continue with that one. Then the lying hamstring stretch, for which you will need something like a rope or a towel, or basically anything that you can hook against your foot and then simply pull it, so you can do some stretching exercises. So you lay down on the floor like so, put the rope against your foot that you're going to stretch, or the leg that you're going to stretch, and simply pull it towards you until you feel the tension, and don't go any further than that. The main benefit of this one, opposed to other hamstring exercises, is because it reduces, or actually it doesn't reduce, but it prevents lower back pain, because you won't be leaning forward in an uncomfortable position. So if you have lower back pain, then this is probably one of the better exercises to do, regardless if it comes to hamstring exercises. Let's see, next on the list is the, the Cobra. So this is a core stretching exercise. Again, lay it down on the floor with your face down, and then with your feet straight, you will walk yourself upright like so, and this is what's called the Cobra. You can look up a little bit more to put some more tension on the abdominal muscles mostly, and also a little bit on your lower back muscles, and hold that position for a while until the tension feels away and you can go stretch deeper. So that brings me to the downward facing dog, which is more of an exercise for the upper body, so for the upper back for example, as well as the lower back. A tight lower back is definitely something that can prevent you from doing front splits most of the time, because your lower back as well as your hamstrings and your glutes and your hips are kind of connected with each other. So if one of them is not flexible, then you can definitely feel that when you're trying to do a front split or other flexibility exercises. So downward facing dog goes as follows. Well, that's basically the exercise. It's not really spectacular, but it definitely is great to stretch a big part of your body, especially your upper body, but also some of your lower back. For the glutes, you will also do the glute grab behind the knees, what I think I call it, which goes as follows. And that will bring me to the next hip exercise, hip stretching exercise, which is really great if you're trying to practice your side split, which goes as follows. And instead of doing the modified yoga sit, you will then place one foot on top of the other and bring bring it towards your hip as close as possible and simply lean forward a little bit, or go sit back a little bit and then lean forward. And that is the exercise. You could also do a variation on this where one leg is like so, and then you put the other one on top of it. Push against your knee and you will feel some more tension. And if you want to save some time, you could also do a hamstring stretch simultaneously, but that's more difficult. The standing inner thigh stretch is one of the exercises that I've used a lot when I was practicing for my side split. Instead of facing towards the object, you will stand in the 90-degree angle of the object, so it hits you in the side basically, and then one leg is put to the side. Again, keep your feet pointing forward in the same direction as your face, and then you can lean towards the leg or the object that you place your leg on, and then simply feel the tension in your body. I notice that I say simply a lot because, well, stretching shouldn't be difficult. However, it should be done with some precaution and you should pay some good attention to what you're doing with stretching. Alright, intermediate level 5. Again, the seated quadricep stretch, which is the same as I already explained a couple of times, but this time try to stretch down as far as you can, or simply try to lay down on the floor like so, which will definitely put a lot of tension on your quadriceps. Now do make sure that you can already do the seated quadriceps until a pretty deep level before you attempt to really lay down on the floor like this, because that can actually be a little bit too advanced. So once again, as well, the crossed yoga sit, where you sit down in the yoga position, but then bring this leg a little bit in and put the other leg on top of it. Try to put it towards the hip joint as far as you can, and then push down on the knee and lean forward a little bit, which will actually stretch both of the hips, but the upper leg is stretched most of it. And of course, make sure that you alternate between those between the legs, so you will train your body equally, the sides of your body equally. Then the deep and long calf stretch. Well, this is basically doing the exercises, the stretching exercises that I already showed. However, there is also the squatted shin stretch, for which I take off my shoes, and then you will squat down like so, lean on your arms, and then one leg at a time, which is what I recommend. You will bend your toes like so. So instead of pointing them into the floor, you will actually put them down and then lean backwards a little bit, and this will put some tension on your shins. So from the front, you put it down, you put your toes down like so, and then lean backwards a little bit, which will put the tension on your shins. And once again, the glute behind the knee grab. I don't know why I call it like this, but I guess I don't know any better names for it. Once again, you can grab behind your knee, hence the name behind the knee grab, and you will feel it in the glute, hence the term glute. Now you could also try this with one leg, with one hand only, and then push the other knee. So that will increase the tension, but you have to push with this hand and pull with this hand, which can be a little bit more difficult. And that's level 5. One of my favorite quadricep stretches, which is also one of the more advanced ones, is the following. You start with the lunge, as if you're going to do the hip lunge stretch, where this leg is going to be stretched. However, instead, try to keep your balance, bend your leg and grab it, so you can actually feel a lot of tension on your quadriceps if you pull hard enough. Of course, be careful with this one and don't pull too hard in the beginning, but rather do it with control until you feel the tension, and then let the tension fade away. Again, make sure that your toes are pointing towards the floor rather than towards the ceiling, because then there's not a lot of tension. Alright, the next exercise is the pigeon pose. Another one of my favorites, and this time it is actually a hip stretching exercise. It is a yoga pose in which one leg goes in front like so, and then keep your hips squared and keep your back leg in the same position as you would with the hip lunges, and you can lean back a little bit. this will definitely put some tension on your hips. Leaning forward would be more of a glute exercise. Just so you know, you could combine those two and stay in the same position for a while and alternate between those two exercises. Which actually is one of the next exercises, which was the seated glute. Anyway, the triangle hamstring is a very nice exercise indeed, which goes as follows. You stand with your legs apart, like so, and both of the feet are pointing forward in the same direction as your face, and then you will bend down towards your front leg, which kind of simulates a triangle, as you can see. And try to get as close to your front leg as possible for more tension, while keeping the front end as well as the back leg or foot both on the floor. Then another glute exercise, which you probably know if you have watched the entire video so far, which is the seated glute stretch. I should do it from this side. Simply put one leg over the other at the level of the knee and then twist towards the leg that is up. And then simply push against your knee for some more tension and rotate away from your knee for even more tension. So now that you are more advanced, you should also be able to stretch a little bit further. That brings me to the next exercise, which is the Cobra, which is also an exercise I already demonstrated. Lay down on your stomach and with your hands walk your upper body up. And if you want to put some more tension on your abdominal muscles, which is basically this exercise, for which this exercise is your abdominals and your core, you can look up a little bit more. The next exercise is a lower back exercise. Sit on your hands and your knees and then with one hand go underneath the other and stretch out as far as you can without losing contact with the floor, and lay down like this for a while, and you can feel that it also stretches your upper back muscles, so your latissimus dorsi, but most of all your lower back muscles. Now for me personally, it's very difficult to stretch my lower back muscles because they are pretty tight from the beginning and most exercises don't really help for them. And I think a lot of people have this problem. So don't get discouraged if you don't immediately see any results or feel any results from this exercise. The double box inner thigh is an exercise that I didn't really use a lot personally, but I only discovered this one later. What you do is you will sit on your hands and your knees and then push your knees out a little bit as well as your legs. So it's kind of as if you're already into a side split like this, but without stretching out your knees a lot, or without stretching out your legs, because as you can see that will put more distance between you and the floor, and it could discourage you from actually trying to train for the side split. So rather do it like this. You can sit up tight or you can lay down, whatever you prefer and whatever gives you the right amount of tension that can fade away. This is what's called the assisted quadricep stretch. Here is an object. I use a squat rack because that's one of the few things that I didn't move to film, but you could also just use a chair that is about this height. What you do is you'll place your ankle on it, so not your foot, as I explained with basically any of the quadricep stretching exercises, but rather your foot. And it is important that there is nothing behind this, so that you can actually push down your foot, your toes towards the floor without any help, or you could do some with some help. And then all you have to do is lean backwards, and you can also rotate, and this will put some different tension on your quadriceps. It is also recommended to stretch your muscles in different directions, so by applying a slight rotation you can actually feel that the quadriceps is stretched in a different way, hence leading to more flexibility. The deep hamstring stretch is kind of similar to the upright hamstring stretch, this one, but instead your leg goes more towards your body and then you will lean forward a little bit more so you can actually stretch deeper, and with that you also push your pelvis forward, which is difficult to explain, but simply do it, and then you can look upwards to apply some more tension. So that's the deep hamstring stretch, or the deep hip stretch. Then the bridge. Well, not everyone will probably be able to do this one. So this is what the bridge looks like. Try to extend your arms and your legs as far as possible. But as I said, not everyone can do that. So instead you could also go for only the lower body where you do this. So round your body, kind of round your body actually. And this will stretch your core as well as your hips and perhaps even your glutes. The knee and leg hug is something I already demonstrated as well, but I will show it again. You will lay down on your back and grab your knee and your foot or your ankle, whatever you prefer, and try to pull it towards your chest as much as possible until you feel the tension in your glutes, so in your butt. Try to do some different angles, experiment with that, because stretching in different angles at this level particularly can definitely increase your flexibility and help you to overcome some plateaus that you have noticed during the training of your flexibility. Then the triangle hamstrings. Again, place your feet in the same direction as your face is, with your hips squared, and then lean forward to the front leg. And you can of course, or you should of course, alternate between those two. You can also do a variation on this for the inner thighs, which is the triangle inner thigh stretch, and then you will lean towards one leg, and this time your feet are pointing in the same direction as your face as well, but your hips are evened out. The quadriceps lunge is also an exercise I demonstrated before, and it is kind of the hip lunge, but instead you will grab the hind leg at the ankle as with any quadriceps stretch. So basically it's like that. You can use an object to grab here, or you can grab an object in front of you to keep your balance, or you can simply place one hand on the floor, but do make sure that you can still feel the tension in your quadriceps. And again, the bridge. Like this, put a cushion underneath your head if you're attempting this for the first times, or if you're uncomfortable with the exercise in general, or simply only bridge with your lower body, like so. And also again the pigeon pose, which actually is more of a glute stretch than a hip stretch, and I accidentally mentioned it was a hip stretch. So instead of keeping upright, which you can do to stretch your hips more, you can also choose to go forward and lay down on your front leg, and that will indeed stretch your glutes more than it does your hips. A couple of standing exercises. The first one is the elevated hip stretch. I think I already showed this as well. You will place your hind leg on an object such as a chair, which is high enough but not too high, and then you will lean forward a little bit or lean backwards with your pelvis moving forward, and that will put some tension on your hamstring or your hips. But if you lean backwards a little bit more, you can also stretch your abdominal muscles. Just experiment with that and you will see that there are some variations on this that are possible. And also the elevated standing inner thigh stretch, where you place your leg on an object and simply lean towards it. Then the tripod hamstring stretch, which is different from the triangle stretch, which looks like this. Instead, the hind leg stays on the floor as it is now, so completely flat on the floor, and then place your hands on the floor and the front leg goes off the floor. You can keep it on the floor, but I prefer to keep it off of the floor, and move more towards the leg in the back. And the further you go towards that leg, the more tension that you will feel on your hamstrings. Hence, you can really progress with this exercise in terms of hamstring flexibility. Alright, so the first level, level 9 of the advanced routines, says that you have regular days as well as isometric days. Now let me explain this with the first exercise, which is the lying quadricep stretch, one that I already demonstrated a couple of times, where you simply grab the leg, one of the legs, and pull towards you. this puts some tension on your quadriceps, as you may feel. Now, this is what you do on your regular days. However, if you are doing isometric, you have to contract your muscles as hard as you can, or as hard as is comfortable for you in a specific position. Now, one thing that is very important is to mention that if you have found your level of tension when you are doing some regular stretching, it is important that you do not contract your muscles in this very position, but rather wait until the tension fades away just a little bit, or simply move your leg further away from you, so decrease the tension by making that motion and then contracting your muscles. In the case of quadriceps exercises, most of the time you are pushing away from your pulling arm. So I'm pulling with my arm with regular training. However, with isometric I try to push my arm away, so it kind of tries to escape without actually giving it any chance to escape. So that means that your leg is probably not going to contract as hard as it can, because most of the time your legs are stronger than your arms, especially your grip. Then the deep lunges. I already demonstrated this one as well. So on regular training days, you will simply do it as if you would with the rest of the routine. However, if you're going to do isometric, then you are kind of pushing against the floor with your hind leg, and that will put some tension on your hips as well. If you have difficulty with contracting one particular muscle group, then it is recommended that you simply contract all your muscles, or at least the muscles in your lower body, which most of the time is in your legs. And this definitely helps you to strengthen your body in this position. You can also do this with the seated hamstring stretch. So first of all, this is the normal position, and then I contract my legs, specifically my hamstrings. However, it's pretty difficult for me to contract my hamstrings individually, so rather I try to contract my entire leg, so I at least know for sure that my hamstrings are contracted as well. The same goes for the deep inner thigh stretch. This goes as follows. It's also an exercise I demonstrated a couple of times. You stretch down until you feel the tension, and then you can either wait until the tension fades away slightly, or you can go up a little bit so there is less tension, and then contract your muscles in this position. This is an important concept which I also will explain in the final 2 months where you're going to do PNF stretching, but more about that later. So let me see. The seated glute stretch, which also is a familiar exercise for you by now. And instead of course your elbow is going to push your leg that way. However, your leg wants to push it this way when it's going to do the isometric exercise. So it's kind of a fight between your upper body and your lower body in this case, or your arms and your legs. That is the isometric stretching, the first level, level 9 of the advanced program. The level 8 advanced program, as with the level 9 one, this time you are going to do isometric training as well. And please make sure that you check out on what days that you should do which exercise, because doing isometric training every day is not a good idea. Rather, you should have at least 1 day of rest in between those 2 routines, and on that day of rest you can do some regular stretching if you like. So this time the, what's it called again? The quadricep lunges. You're pulling your leg towards you. However, when you're doing the isometric part of the workout program, you're actually trying to get that foot loose. So, ow, put something underneath your knee because it really hurts to do this. Anyways, instead of pulling, you're going to pull and push that arm away with the hind leg, and that's the isometric part of it. And then the modified yoga sit, which is something I already demonstrated as well. Sit down on the floor, palms of your feet towards each other, and with a regular stretch you're going to push your legs downwards with your elbows. You can grab your feet, but when you're doing isometric stretching, you're trying to get it away from those elbows and push your knees against your elbows as well as push your elbows against the knees. So it's kind of a battle between those two. The deep lunges once again, and also with the contraction when you're doing isometric. And then the standing hamstring stretch. There are variations on this one. You could go down straight, or you could also spread your legs a little bit and then lean towards one leg. It depends on whether you have different flexibility levels in both legs, or if you simply want to save some time, then you can do it with your legs standing next to each other. And of course with the isometric, you're going to contract your muscles in a certain position where there is still some tension but not too much tension. The grab behind the knee, which you can also do with isometric training. Basically every muscle can be worked out with isometric training, however you shouldn't do it with small muscles such as your calf muscles or your biceps, which is definitely not recommended. Isometric is something that is used to increase strength without increasing mass. But anyways, grab behind the knee, again, you're going to pull it, but in order to get some tension on your glutes. So basically you can do, and then the glute exercise. Again, you grab the glute, grab behind the knee, and of course you want to involve some isometric in this one as well, in the isometric days. So you're going to push away with the leg that is on top of the other one. The standing inner thigh or the elevated inner thigh, whatever you want to call it. Again, lean and then contract your muscles when you're in this position for the isometric benefits of this stretching routine. Alright, the final two levels. This is the level where you should be almost down to the side and the front split. In fact, according to my level guide, you should be inches away, or you could also already do the split if you're at level 12. However, first level 11, this is kind of similar to how I did the isometric training. However, now we are going to do PNF stretching, which is propioneuromuscular facilitation stretching. More about that later. First of all, on the regular days you will simply do all the exercises that are listed. So the quadricep lunge, which is this one, grab your hind leg, as well as the crossed yoga sit, which I also demonstrated multiple times, like so, lean forward. The deep lunges, like so. And then we have the triangle hamstrings. Stand with your legs with about 2 times shoulder width apart, and then lean towards the front leg. The grab behind the knee stretch. This is probably one of my favorite glute stretches, as you can see, as I'm using it so often. And which I have on hi-hat, the standing inner thigh. So you can do it like this, or you could put it on an elevated object, as I demonstrated multiple times as well. We are already familiar with the isometric part of stretching. However, now it's time for the PNF stretching, propioneuromuscular facilitation. What you do is, you do this with 2 exercises. The attempt of a front split and the attempt of a side split. So let's say that this is my attempt of a side split. I'm about 10 centimeters away. And that means that this is about the level where I can do some PNF stretching if I do it with care. Now, this is my maximum range of motion now. Instead of going down even further and risking a injury, that you should try to go up a little bit more and then contract your muscles in this position. And contract it for about 10 seconds. And after those 10 seconds, you can release. And you will notice that you can go down a little bit further. Now, feel the tension once again, and once this tension is gone away for about 10 seconds, that should take you right now, you can contract your muscles once again for about 10 seconds. Now try to push your legs into the floor to strengthen your inner thighs and everything that is involved in the side split. Once those 10 seconds are over, you can go down even further and do the split. And in this position you can also do isometric PNF stretching, and this will also help you to be more comfortable with doing the splits. So that is how you do PNF stretching in level 11 as well as level 12. And then the tripod hamstrings, I'm going to show that again because it's different from the triangle hamstrings. So you stand as if you're going to do the triangle hamstrings, however, place your hands on the floor and your front leg is going to go out the floor. Move towards the hind leg to put more tension on your hamstrings. So that's it for the entire Masters of Splits training program, which you can download for free on the link that I share in the description. You can get a 100% discount if you share it on social media, so then it's completely for free. Of course, you can also simply write down everything I said in this video, including the sets and reps and how long you should do each exercise, or you can give me a kind of donation by simply purchasing the program instead of getting it for free, which is definitely up to you. I really don't have to have any money for it, but it is your choice to make a donation. You can also help me by giving this video a thumbs up, share it on social media, as well as commenting on this video, telling me why you want to learn the split. So that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, subscribe for more, and I will see you next time.